So straight from 54 AD Corinth. I invited them here because they each have robust opinions about the question of whether a Christian can eat in the pagan temple, can eat idol meat in the pagan temple. So we're going to let you each kind of give your view of this question, and maybe let's start by getting to know you a little bit. So how long have each of you been following Jesus? Philon?
Well, I've just 6 months or so, I think.
Yeah?
Yeah. Just heard some of the teachings and was just very convicted. Yeah. How about you?
Me, I've been about 2 years. 2 years, yeah. So.
And before you each became a believer in Jesus, what was your interaction with the city religion?
Well, I was a very adamant follower of the gods of the city, and I participated in all the idol worship. Sad to say, so I'm thankful I've been saved by Christ, and so I was very involved.
Gaius?
Sure. I was also involved, pretty involved, but I mean it was only a social thing. So whenever I would go, it would be to just go to do the social thing. Like the boss had rented out the banquet hall that happened to be at the temple, and so obviously there's temple sacrifices going on, and a lot of just a lot of random words and incense and a lot of funny statues. But I mean we were there to eat, and so that's what I did. I ate. I have no particular calling to what's going on there. It's not really any different than if I were to eat at one of your houses. It's just a place for me to go and get some meat.
All right. So what about the idols then?
Just a place, that's kind of like a little much to believe. I mean, we know in the Old Testament that these idols are
nothing.
No, I don't think it's nothing. I mean, why would we have the first commandment be, you shall have no other gods before me?
Well, I think we'll get to that.
Sure, whatever. I mean, I'm sorry. Very passionate.
Okay, Gaius, what you want to answer?
Sure. Yeah. So when I said they're nothing, I mean that advisedly, because I happen to have a copy of the Old Testament scriptures here, and we're going to go to Isaiah chapter 44, and I'm going to read a fairly lengthy passage. Is verse 9 to 17. So this is calling out the folly of idolatry, and I quote: "All who fashion idols are nothing, and the things they delight in do not profit. Their witnesses neither see nor know, that they may be put to shame. Who fashions a god or casts an idol that is profitable for nothing? Behold, all his companions shall be put to shame, and the craftsmen are only human. Let them all assemble, let them stand forth. They shall be terrified. They shall be put to shame together. The ironsmith takes a cutting tool and works it over the coals. He fashions it with hammers and works it with his strong arm. But he becomes hungry and his strength fails. He drinks no water and is faint. The carpenter stretches a line. He marks it out with a pencil. He shapes it with planes and marks it with a compass. He shapes it into the figure of a man with the beauty of a man to dwell in a house. He cuts down cedars, or he chooses a cypress tree or an oak and lets it grow strong among the trees of the forest. He plants a cedar and the rain nourishes it. Then it becomes fuel for a man. He takes part of it and warms himself. He kindles a fire and he bakes bread. Also, he makes a god and worships it. He makes it an idol and falls down before it. Half of it he burns in the fire. Over the half he eats meat, he roasts it and is satisfied. Also he warms himself and says, Aha, I am warm. I have seen the fire. And the rest of it he makes into a god, his idol, and falls down to it and worships it. He prays to it and says, Deliver me, for you are my God." So given that, I think we can understand that the idols themselves are nothing.
You are as long-winded as your toga.
Those were the words of the Lord, sir.
We also see the words of the Lord, and again, he continually rebukes Israel for chasing after other gods. I think the nothingness of these gods is that they are not the one true God. So,
Okay, so can you comment on the act that's going on before you eat in the temple? The slaughtering in the name of one of the gods of Corinth. Is that a real offering, or is that nothing?
well, I think like they are truly in their heart sacrificing to these gods, demons, as it says in Deuteronomy, I believe, and so they are those things are tainted. They are, and it displeases God what they're doing.
Yeah, and I honestly can't believe that, because I just read, long-winded though it may have been, that they are in fact nothing. And so we should treat them as such. And so, for myself, no, they're absolutely nothing.
How can you be so sure of such a wrong position?
So your conclusions, if I go to my last, one of my last questions here, just give a brief answer. Can a Christian eat in the temple?
You know, I just see the offering as really offered, regardless of this nothing idea. Eating in the temple seems sinful to me.
And like I've said before, I think it's fine. I think it's fine to eat, because again, these are nothing, and it would be a good way to show the confidence in the Lord Jesus Christ that we can go into these places and remember what they actually are. So I'm absolutely fine with it.
Okay. So I have a surprise for you two. Being from 54 AD, these two have never received or read 1 Corinthians. So we're going to read today 1 Corinthians 8 together, and then next week 1 Corinthians 10. Before we do, I would expect you perhaps to have questions. Maybe you're wondering, why did they answer the way they answered? Does anyone think their answers didn't really make sense, or you don't quite understand why these are the two sides? Yep.
It's almost like the law gospel distinction. You can summarize Horace with the law and John with the gospel. So there's freedom in Christ to eat, and there's zeal for the law, which God says we must love His commandments.
So I'm gonna just repeat. So you're saying that Gaius, who is Jonathan, is speaking of freedom.
Yes.
And Philon Forrest is advocating following the law. Yep. Yep.
So Romans, when we talked about it, included reference to Jewish and non-Jewish parts of the church, whereas here you're clearly not having any Jewish involvement in this. Was that the case in Corinth as well?
Right. So it's actually historically known that in the pagan temples in Corinth, Jews were not allowed to attend. So the difference in opinion here is not between Jews and Gentiles specifically. Certainly they would have had an opinion. Any Jewish believers would have had an opinion about this debate. But it wouldn't have been a personal question, even for Paul. He wouldn't have been allowed in anyway. So he didn't really have to answer the question of whether he could go in and eat meat. And then, yeah.
I guess I would disagree about the law and the grace and it has more to do with their background and the way they worship God. They both have a desire to worship, and it has to do with the lens they're looking at it through.
Yep. So, the comment, if not everyone heard, was that Gaius clearly has a different lens. They actually both grew up in the system, attending, but because they viewed the system differently, one just thinks of it as mumbo jumbo. I never believed in this, so now that I'm a believer in God, why should belief in the idols change me? And the other did believe it and still thinks of it as a real offering and one to be avoided. Is that what you're?
Yeah.
Yep. And I tried to reflect that. I think the history of how important these feasts were in the social life of especially an ambitious Corinthian. You're expected when your son comes of age to have a party there and invite people, and that's a chance to pay back favors and be in the social, scene. And so if you want political power or good business connections, you did it. It really didn't matter if you believed it. And the thought is that a lot of the Corinthian people didn't really believe in the religion. They just participated for social reasons. Yeah. So we'll have some more time at the end if you have more questions, but let's go on to 1 Corinthians 8. So we'll start verse 1. Paul says, "Now concerning food offered to idols, we know that all of us possess knowledge. This knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. If anyone imagines that he knows anything, he does not yet know as he ought to know. But if anyone loves God, he is known by God."
That's interesting. This caution for knowledge. I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys, on this is an idol nothing, one of your disagreements I put in has knowledge. I know that aspect of knowledge has been a core part. What do we know about your disagreement?
Exactly. That means that knowledge, having that knowledge, it's really an important aspect of this.
Yeah.
It's important because God tells us not to sacrifice to idols.
Yeah.
So, that's awesome.
Good thing they're nothing.
So, okay, on to verse 4. "Therefore, as to the eating of food offered to idols, we know that an idol has no real existence, and that there is no God but one."
Check and mate. Okay. Notice that first person plural. The we know. So Paul, I think, is joining in the knowledge that I am trying to explain to you. We have this knowledge, okay? We have the knowledge that an idol has no real existence. There is no God but one. These are things that we know. Me and Paul.
Maybe, but maybe it means something else. So we should keep listening.
Let's keep reading. So, what we call verse 5. "For although there may be so-called gods in heaven or on earth, as indeed there are many, quote, gods and many, quote, lords, yet for us there is one God, the Father, from whom are all things and for whom we exist, and one Lord Jesus Christ, through whom are all things and through whom we exist."
Yep, and that's what I understood from Paul before. Yep.
Yeah. I agree. Of course, this is Paul. Paul said that. But does it mean what you think it means?
All right, let's read on. Verse 7. "However, not all possess this knowledge, but some, through former association with idols, eat food as really offered to an idol, and their conscience, being weak, is defiled."
Okay, I agree. But I'd like to clarify that I do believe idols are nothing. there is only one God, okay? But I don't agree that means we can just eat what was offered to idols. It means we should avoid them.
But if they're nothing, then why are you acting like they are something? Right? Nothing means nothing.
Maybe. Maybe.
Nothing means the idols. They don't have any meaning or significance to us, because what is offered to nothing.
Okay. I know you've been a Christian longer than I have, but does that fit with the commandment God told us to have no other gods? Did he not mean that we must avoid false gods like these in Corinthians? Wouldn't your view make that whole commandment meaningless?
I don't know why. Why would it do that?
I think he's saying, if nothing means nothing, doesn't that mean the first commandment has no application? And it never did. I mean, if God is saying have no other gods, but there are no other gods, it would be like me telling my son, don't ride a unicorn today. You know, he's not going to encounter a unicorn, so it's pointless to tell him that.
It wouldn't be okay. So it wouldn't be pointless. It wouldn't be pointless to tell. Well, I guess it would be pointless to tell them that because there aren't unicorns, right? But I don't think that means what you're saying. It doesn't mean that there's no proper place, right? We're told to flee from idolatry. That's absolutely true, right? But when that first commandment says, "You shall have no other gods before me," it means you will have no other gods in my presence. All right? Have your hearth and your heart free from everything that is an idol. So for me, remembering Isaiah 44, speaking of the idols made with wood, the same wood that the man crafts an idol and bows down to it, the same wood he cooks with a fire, he does all these other things with, okay? When we learn this, when we remember this, we are gaining the knowledge that there is no God but one. And by eating there, I am proclaiming that fact. So recognizing, yes, that this is a potential pitfall for Philon here, or how do you say your name again? Philon?
Good enough.
Good enough? All right. Good enough. Recognizing that this is a potential pitfall for you, it's not the same for me. Okay, so by eating, I am not in any danger of the idolatry that the first commandment is forbidding here.
Okay. So yeah, maybe there's a heart issue here. Of course, it's worse to worship the idol in your heart than just to do the motions without trusting in the idol. But it also matters. What we do visibly in front of all these people, we are communicating to these non-believers who are blinded that if we participate in these sorts of things, they just think that the Yahweh is just another one of these gods that's a potential god to worship. So I just...
So question for Philon. Did you notice that Paul just called you weak? There at the end of verse 7. Or at least your conscience being weak would be defiled if you ate.
Yeah. Maybe weak isn't a bad thing. I don't.
So for our class, we can add this description at the bottom. We can kind of label them weak and strong. Philon is weak. That's what Paul says. So is Gaius strong? Okay, raise your hand if you're going to call Gaius strong. Okay, about half went for it. So we'll come back to that.
And how many just don't want to say because they don't want to be wrong? That's what I want.
Yeah. All right, verse 8. Food will not commend us to God. We are no worse off if we do not eat, and no better off if we do.
I think what Paul is saying here is that your position is at least not better than mine. I am not worse off for not eating, and you're not better because you do.
Sure. I mean, maybe, but I would think it would be a legitimate step of faith to realize that those idols never meant anything.
Okay, let's go on. So this will be, for those of you following in your copies, it'll be verse 9 through the end of this chapter. But take care that this right of yours, Gaius, does not somehow become a stumbling block to the weak. For if anyone sees you who have knowledge, eating in an idol's temple, will he not be encouraged, if his conscience is weak, to eat food offered to idols? And so, by your knowledge, this weak person is destroyed, the brother for whom Christ died. Thus, sinning against your brothers and wounding their conscience when it is weak, you sin against Christ. Therefore, if food makes my brother stumble, I will never eat meat, lest it make my brother stumble.
You got to reread.
Yeah, just a second. That's profound.
It says never eat meat. Does that eat mean all meat or just meat offered to idols in context? Right at the end, verse 13.
Yeah, definitely some commentators make a lot out of the emphatic language that Paul uses here. And he says, he kind of says, I'll never, ever eat meat. He uses pretty emphatic language.
But meat to idols or just meat at all, vegetarianism?
Well, so again, Paul is trying to express his own willingness to give something up. He isn't really in this battle. He's a Jew, so he wouldn't be allowed to go in and eat that particular idol meat. But he's just saying, hey, if it kept my brother from stumbling, I would never eat meat. I think he means in that sentence, I would never eat meat if it made my brother stumble, if I knew that. I don't think it means he never ever eats meat, though. So.
Was the only meat available in Corinth that had been sacrificed to idols?
It is pretty well agreed that it was cheaper, and maybe even for most people prohibitively expensive to have meat in the city, if you weren't going to have either leftovers or get invited to a feast. Or if you're really wealthy, then have one. What do you think, guys?
No, I think Paul is telling you, not to encourage someone like me to eat in the temple.
Being very accusatory. Right. Yes, I think that's probably something that we could draw from this. But he is still legitimately saying that I do have a right to eat there, and he's agreeing that I have knowledge. But I mean, what I don't understand is why would he not want me to encourage you to eat that, like to encourage you to give you the knowledge that I currently possess?
Well, I'm not sure. Don't miss the other point he's making here. For those of us who believe what is offered is really offered, to eat it is a sin against Christ. I feel like Paul has validated my position. Did you notice that Paul said, this right of yours, is Paul agreeing you have the right? Maybe he's just acknowledging that you believe that you have the right.
Yeah, it's interesting that you both feel vindicated by this.
So Dan, what would your view be for Gaius? Obviously Gaius is in the wrong because he says I can eat meat and stumble my weak brother, but how would you be an obedient Christian, or how would you encourage Gaius to relate to the weak brother?
Yeah, so the question is, like, who do I agree with, right? Or
No, not even who you would agree with. How would you change?
I'm not going to answer that yet.
How would you work out if you were encouraging Gaius to relate to the weak brother? Because obviously he's not. He wants to stumble his weak brother who's struggling with this.
Yeah.
He's in the right.
They've both read in these last half dozen verses that Gaius, believing he can do what he believes he can do, must be careful not to cause his brother to stumble.
But is he causing him to trying to teach him? You know what I mean? Is he trying to teach him to come to the side?
So the in verse 10, where Paul asks, will he not be encouraged if his conscience is weak? The word is literally to build up. It's the same as build up one another. But this is a build up that Paul's saying to not to. Yeah.
Isn't the encouragement always to the strong to show deference to those who are weak? Like, there's no encouragement from Paul for Philon to, come on, mature. But there's an assumption he's mature, but it's just his conscience won't allow him to do it. But the strong, hey, you got to behave. You can have your freedom, but you've got to be kind to your weak brother. Isn't that?
Well, I'll just answer that a lot of commentators point to this passage when they're looking at weak and strong and eating meat, not eating meat. They point to this passage and the position of knowledge in the passage. And they say these type of disagreements are often about knowledge. How well do you know the Christian faith? Are you this is how they would say it. Are you strong in the faith where you have really good knowledge of what is right and wrong? Especially in the transition from Judaism to Christianity? Or are you untrained or weak in the faith and you don't understand some new aspects of knowledge? That's a way this is a passage that gets pointed to.
Isn't there a third way?
Maybe.
He has, certainly from this conversation, Philon has knowledge now. He's been knowledged by Gaius, but he still can't sin against his conscience. So I think there is knowledge for both. Some people don't have knowledge. They hear that for the first time, but after they hear, they still can't do that.
It's not up there, but in I think it's verse 7, right? It says, not everyone possesses this knowledge.
But obviously, Philon has.
Some people look at that pronoun this, which isn't there in all texts, but it's there in a lot of texts. Some people point to that pronoun this, and they say what Paul is hinting at here is that the weak has different knowledge, which is, I think, kind of what you're getting at.
No, I'm not getting it.
Oh, okay.
Well,
That's not what I believe.
I'm glad we're bringing this up because I think weak maybe can mean different things in different contexts. And I think in this sense, it may simply mean not able. Like, I'm weak, I'm not able to do something. So I think I have very good reasons for being unable to eat in the temple. We are lowly. God is above us. He is strong enough to do whatever he wants. We are not. We are weak because we submit to God's rules. To be weak is to be submissive, maybe. To have a specific, personal, committed instance of submission to God and his words, which limits us what we can do because he told us not to.
Okay, but that's a personal one though. So you said personal, so do you think that that's for you? That's not necessarily a requirement for me then, right?
I don't know. I mean, I think you're making a really serious error.
Okay, so let's leave it there.
Well, wait, I have a question.
Okay.
In verse 2, Paul seems to caution the knower that he supposes he knows. And he says that the knower does not yet know as he ought to. So I'm trying to figure out what is wrong with Gaius' knowledge.
Gaius?
Gaius.
Or Gaius.
So
Whatever.
You guys know how to say it better.
right.
I only Googled
I've
it.
been saying my own name for years. I mean, so as far as that, it has to be that. I mean, the best I can do is it means that I need to be more careful and avoid maybe encouraging others to eat this idol meat when their conscience is specifically against it.
Maybe.
Okay, question.
Does love have anything to do in this situation?
What's love got to do with it?
Loving
You
loving
don't
their
know that
brother.
reference yet.
Loving their brother. Loving the weaker brother.
Yeah, I mean, this passage is somewhat parallel with Romans 14, which definitely calls the stronger brother to walk in love. And if you make your brother stumble, you are no longer walking in love. He doesn't use the word love here, but clearly seeking to give up something that might be important to you in order to not destroy your brother is a step of love that hopefully Gaius can. Okay, he was.
One comment on going back to what you were saying about him, Philon having knowledge, but basically it sounded like that he was still holding the position. I wanted to kind of tease something real quick, is that people can have, we already know in life that people can have knowledge. You can know about Jesus, but not have faith in Jesus, right? So we have a body of knowledge that we trust, that we have faith in. So is it possible, once again, at this point, that Philon has the knowledge, but does not have the faith required to commit the act, right?
Yeah, so what you're, so Douglas Moo brings this out pretty well in his commentary, talking about Romans, that there's a difference between, maybe Philon has this emotional connection to this, and he knows in his mind that it's actually okay now. But it takes a while for our conscience to follow what we know we can do. So sometimes the heart, as you said it, I would say if you want an Old Testament word for conscience, it's probably heart. The heart may still say, no, I can't do that, even though the mind knows it's actually okay. I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a very common view.
You would disagree with Moo's position then?
So he's asked if I disagree with Moo there.
Well, how would you answer Moo?
Well, I'm not answering that quite yet. We still got to get through 10, and then I'll answer.
I just wanted to say too, that also just kind of proves another point of big brother, strong brother, that these things aren't mutually exclusive. Like, just because a brother's weak doesn't mean that he always lacks the knowledge, nor does it mean that he has knowledge. It's not an exclusive position to be the weak brother and then lack knowledge or not, or have the knowledge.
Yep.
The same thing with faith as well. So you can have those things.
So you're arguing you could be weak and have knowledge, you could be strong and have knowledge.
Exactly. It's not a mutually exclusive position.
I have a couple questions. I did want to point out, I think I underlined it here for you guys. Paul actually calls you, Philon, weak 4 more times here. You're the weak, your conscience is weak, you're the weak person, your conscience is weak. Yep.
You agree with that? Okay. That's good.
So I told these guys how to act as Gaius and Philon.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
One more. I don't know if you're going to maybe get to this. If the strong person, the one who is able to do this, is continually asked to, despite the knowledge that he has, to put on love for his brother, are we then are the weaker brothers then potentially, can that be weaponized against the strong, and therefore we have no Christian liberty on quite a few things? Are we just then, do we become the lowest common denominator and we have to conform to whoever is the weakest conscience among us?
You're strong. You should be able to do that.
You should be able to do it. Yeah.
I'm just asking, and this is maybe out of character, and you can say we're going to deal with it later.
Yeah, we're going to deal with that.
Oh, that means I'm tracking. Okay, good.
Yeah, this is part 3, and I think that'll be 7 or 8. So let's move. I have. Are there any historical questions? In other words, I don't get why one of them acted the way they did. Can you give me some support for that, history-wise?
If I can answer his question real quick, going back to Romans 14, where it says, make every effort to live at peace with those. self-edification. I mean, make every effort. I don't think it's a right or wrong, but make the effort. Make every effort to live in peace. And that goes back to what she was saying with love.
Yeah.
What are you driven by? What are you motivated by?
It's actually a really difficult question though, because this guy's Philon is going to say, well, you didn't make enough effort, and Gaius is going to say,
I left everything for you.
You know, I've been missing out on stuff for years, and I was probably going to be, you know, sub-mayor by now, and I'm not. And I don't know why I have to sacrifice this stuff. Just don't eat there, you know. He's going to say I shouldn't have to. Anyway, so historical questions. Okay.
So would these Gentile believers have had access to Old Testament prophets, like where God said, your sacrifices are putrid to me, I don't want your actual law-abiding worship, I want your hearts?
I like that. That's good.
Because the knowledge that Gaius doesn't have is he hasn't asked Philon, what is the heart idol that is causing you to stumble when you do this? Because idol worship is not just bowing or eating the meat. It's maybe you're looking to the meat for satisfaction in place of God, or maybe you're looking to those relationships in place of, for success in place of God.
So your question was relating to what their access was. I don't really know how much access they had to, you know. I do think at the end of Romans 14, which we did the last couple weeks, Paul slips in this line that it is through the encouragement of the scriptures that we have hope, which for most of those Romans was the mental and sometimes physical possession of the Jews. And I see that as a line that says, hey, you guys, even you strong Gentiles, you need the Jews because it's through the Word. And when he said the Word, he meant the Old Testament. It's through that we have hope. So I think there were less Jews population-wise in the Corinthian church, but there certainly were Jews, and they would have known the Word and tried to tell them about it. Okay, so we have like 5 minutes. Let me do something here. You know, a little bit ago I asked you a question, is Gaius strong? And maybe a third of you put up your hand. I want to ask you this question. Who do you agree with more? And I'm going to ask, do you agree more with Gaius, Jonathan, or do you agree more with Philon, Forrest? And maybe you kind of think they're both right. I would say if you think they're both right, then you probably should raise your hand with Gaius. Because Philon still thinks that Gaius is wrong. But I'd like you to maybe close your eyes and then let's vote it, because I don't want you to be totally influenced by other people. So if you would all close your eyes. Okay. Jonathan and yeah.
Very serious stuff.
You guys can watch because you know hopefully you've made your case and you want to see. So close your eyes if you are willing, and if you are mostly in agreement with Gaius, raise your hand.
And again, agreement about what? How he's acting or what he believes in?
Okay. About the core question, can Gaius eat in the temple? All right, let's say there's a situation. Let's just make this the question, okay? There's a situation. Gaius knows that he can go to the temple. After this today, you're going to give him advice. Gaius knows he can go to the temple next week, and he knows Philon is going to be out of town. He's not going to stumble his brother. Okay? Can he go? Is Gaius right at the basic question that he can go and eat in the temple? Raise your hand if you think yes. Okay. So on the wall, I don't think, one hand I think. No? Were you... Okay, you can look now. What's that?
Eyes are closed.
Oh. I think you raised your hand.
Out of.
You singled them out, Dan.
All right, man. Okay, so hardly anybody against the wall raised your hand. How many agree with Philon? That at its core, it's wrong.
Look at
to
all
eat
those
simple.
smart people out there. The few
I'll say I
beauties.
voted twice.
The ones with knowledge, of course. The ones with knowledge.
So okay, let me make Philon's question, since you're agreeing with Philon, let me make Philon's question a little tougher, okay?
And I agree with Gaius, so I put my hand up.
I know, but I'm going to make Philon's question a little tougher, okay? Philon believes that when he's out of town, it's wrong for Gaius to go to the temple, even though he's not going to see it and be encouraged, okay? Is Philon right about that?
He is right.
He's right that it's wrong for Gaius to go to the temple. Okay. How can you agree with Gaius then? Gaius thought it was okay to go to the temple.
Because Gaius is using his freedom to stumble Philon. So Philon says, I'm biblical. Paul told me that Gaius is wrong by stumbling me, so he should not be going.
Double wrong.
No,
Boom.
all right. Yep.
But you're not going to be there.
He knows about you being there.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear.
There could be other people with Philon's point of view that aren't gone, not out of town.
Well, that's true. There could be others. But in the scenario, I meant stumbling a brother is not possible for some reason.
Okay.
Is it wrong for Gaius to go? How many would say it is wrong for Gaius to go, even if stumbling is just not possible in that moment?
Is this a church?
Okay, we got like 6.
We're here to give you knowledge for it.
All right. All right. So chapter 10 is going to be fun. Other questions? We got a couple minutes.
I got kids, man. So go.
Was it right? Gaius
Who's right?
Gaius has knowledge, and he says it's all right, but he's wrong to go to the temple, even if it's out of town, because his buddy Philon knows he's going out of town, and it's stumbling. So Gaius is
No,
right.
I said if it can't stumble.
But
I
Philon,
meant-
you just said Philon knew that he was going to do that. Doesn't have to be in the same town.
Well, it's a hypothetical. So Philon's saying it would be wrong for him to go, even if I don't know about it. And nobody has stumbled.
I thought you said he knew that he
Well, my intention was to say that Philon
Never know.
and nobody else will be stumbled. Is it still wrong for Gaius to eat in the temple?
Sure, then it's all right if his buddy doesn't know. It's very difficult. You have so many different things at play here.
So I think we had time to answer the question, so you don't necessarily have to do this. But this is another questionnaire. It just has the question, is Gaius strong or not? And it has the question about whether you agree with one or the other and a place for comments. So.